Now that you have made your hero, a ship, and a number of trustworthy followers, it is time to set sail for adventure. There are generally 5 stages to an adventure in Beowulf, Age of Heroes: the preparation and portent, sail and surf, Meadhall and Mystery, the monster, and finally rest and rewards. In this video I will cover all of these. Time codes will be in the description if you want to jump around. Let's get started with preparation and portent. Preparations is not a mechanical part of gameplay, but rather a narrative moment to describe loading the ship and preparing to sail. The portent, on the other hand, has a number of mechanical elements. Before every adventure, some portent will come to the hero. It might be overheard lines from a poem, a wise follower might feel compelled to speak some mystic phrase, or maybe even the hero themselves might say some words without fully understanding their meaning. The portent itself will take the form of 4 words that will give some hint of the adventure to come, as well as give a potential pool of inspiration tokens that will be used during the game. To create the portent, we'll use the tables on page 98. You'll also want some sort of inspiration pool with spaces for the hero, the followers, and the monster. This one I'm showing can be downloaded with the Hermit Sanctuary, which is a free adventure. To start, roll 2 d4s. This will give the structure of the portent. For example, a result of 2 and 3 gives us adjective-noun and noun-adjective. To determine each word of the portent, roll 2d6 on the appropriate table of either adjective or noun. It is important to write down the numbers rolled and which order they were rolled in. This will come into play on the way to the main adventure. There are also additional tables on page 261, or the GM can make up their own to tailor them to the coming adventure. For my first adjective, I got a result of 3-4, which makes the first word of the portent beaten. You'll also notice that each word is on a different colored box and includes a rune. This is to let you know which part of the inspiration pool to add a token to: red for the monster, blue for the followers, and green for the hero. Using this system, I will fill out the rest of the portent, which ends up being beaten god saltwater sharp. This also places 2 tokens in the follower pool, 2 in the hero pool, and no tokens go to the monster. That is good for the player. Now, what does a portent mean exactly? Well, that is up for interpretation, as every good portent is. At any point during the adventure, the player can take a token out of the appropriate pool to give inspiration either to the hero or to the followers, if they can link the current gameplay events to the words of the portent. Also, the GM can do the same thing by taking a token from the monster pool. The point of inspiration doesn't have to be used right away, but remember, you can't stock inspiration points. You either have it or you don't. Also, the inspiration pool does not get restocked until the start of the next adventure when you generate a new portent, so use the points wisely. As we can see in this example, the pool will not get stocked evenly. Sometimes it will benefit the hero and the followers more than the monster, sometimes it will be the other way around. Now that your portent is said and the inspiration pool is stocked, it is time to set sail. Generally, the voyage to the adventure destination is not played out in great detail, but by using the numbers rolled when creating the portent, we can create a few quick challenges that happen on the voyage. First, the GM will determine the length of the voyage. This in turn will determine how many challenges happen along the way. A short voyage of 1 or 2 days will have 1 challenge. A medium voyage of 2 to 4 days will have 2 challenges. And a long voyage of 5 days or more will have 3 challenges. For this example, I will say the hero is going on a short voyage, so I'll only need to create 1 challenge. To do this, we will use the numbers rolled in the portent and the tables on pages 100 to 106. Taking the first number rolled, a 3, we can see that the challenge will come from people. We will take the next number rolled, a 4, and look at the result on the people table to give us our challenge. Overboard. A follower has fallen into the sea. To rescue the follower, the player must either spend a different follower to rescue the first follower, or abandon the fallen follower to drown. If the follower who fell overboard is not rescued, the GM could decide to have that follower survive the ordeal in order to return at some future point to take vengeance against the hero. If the voyage was longer, we could repeat the process with the other d6 results from the portent to generate new challenges. There are 36 different challenges, some granting burdens or gifts on followers, and others that might cause damage to the ship or result in the hero finding useful items. Once the challenges are dealt with, the hero finally arrives at the adventure destination. This is where the story will really kick off, and depending on how the challenges went, the hero might be in a better or worse condition than they anticipated. Generally, when arriving at an adventure location, the hero will be greeted by a lookout on the shore. This will be the hero's first impression of the state of the land that they find themselves in. Is the lookout friendly or aggressive, or is there no lookout at all, either because the settlement is at peace and fears no attack, or because all the people have gone missing and the hero has arrived at a ghost town? From meeting the lookout, if there is one, the hero will most likely be taken to present themselves to the leader of the region in their Meadhall. The Meadhall is the center of life for a settlement, and so it is often the central location to an adventure. In Age of Heroes, the meeting of the hero and the leader of a settlement is very important. Heroes are meant to be courteous and must be very careful not to insult or threaten the community they have come to. In turn, the leader at the Meadhall should also be courteous, providing the hero with a place to stay and food and necessary supplies in return for defeating the monster that is plaguing the land. The hero will meet many key NPCs at the Meadhall and the surrounding village. They will gain more information about the monster or other trials that the people are facing, both internal and external. Now the players will start to see the story web twining around them and how NPCs treat them and other characters. Investigation is a major aspect of Beowulf: Age of Heroes. Key NPCs have important information, and it is up to the player to find out who knows what and what secrets are being hidden. NPCs will have challenges associated with them, advantage and disadvantage criteria, and a note on what followers might be able to assist in social interactions. In this example, in order to convince Einar to help fight the monster, the hero must make a DC 15 persuasion check. If the hero has already killed an important enemy, they will have advantage on this check, while if the hero has not faced the ogres before, they'll have disadvantage. Alternately, since Einar has traveled extensively, a follower with the well-traveled gift can help the hero talk to him, granting advantage. Just like in D&D, a player either has advantage or they don't. So the hero doesn't get double advantage even if they were granted it twice by having a well-traveled follower and having killed an ogre. These advantage-disadvantage criteria can help make a really terrific web to investigate. Sometimes succeeding with one NPC will cause you to have disadvantage when interacting with another, so players will have to pay close attention to how NPCs interact with each other or how they speak about other characters. NPCs will also have a table that shows what information the hero learns based on how well the challenge went. Successes by 5 or more will grant the best possible outcome, while failures of 5 or more will force the worst outcome. It is important that the story not come to a dead end if a challenge fails. Even the worst outcome should provide some useful information. We can see here that even with a terrible failure, Einar will tell the hero to prove themselves and then come back. The hero has temporarily failed, but they should now have an idea of what to try next. Some NPCs will have further challenges that the hero can attempt, and some may even be recruited as followers. After speaking to a number of NPCs, the hero should have enough information to start moving forward. There may be other locations on the map to explore, or even more people to talk to, and soon enough the hero will have to hunt down the monster, or perhaps defend the settlement from the creature itself. The monster is the centerpiece of Beowulf: Age of Heroes. However, there are different kinds of monsters. There are lowercase m monsters, which can be anything from bandits to more classic monsters like trolls. These can generally be defeated in regular combat, and some will even have an additional way to defeat them, such as this bandit, which will surrender or flee if it takes damage for a second time. Then there are capital M monsters, and that's why we're here. This settlement is being beset by something so terrible only a hero could hope to put a stop to it. The central monster of an adventure will have a special tag which makes it undefeatable. This tag will have special requirements that need to be met in order to remove it and make the monster defeatable. This could be fighting the monster with a special weapon in a particular location or time, only after performing a specific ceremony, or anything else you can think of. Finding out what this requirement is the main point of the investigation the hero will be doing in earlier sections of the game. Even once the undefeatable condition is removed, it is likely that the monster will still pose a great threat, but the fight is no longer impossible. The monster doesn't always need to be killed to defeat it either. A monster may run away, never to be seen again, or might transform back into a human form from its cursed form. Or maybe it is simply trapped somewhere it can never escape from. Once the monster is defeated, the hero can return to the Meadhall, celebrate with the townsfolk, and be rewarded. Now the hero and followers can rest for a time, before they hear about the next village in need of saving. The player and GM can generate a new Portent and voyage challenges, and the adventure continues. This is the general format of Adventures in Beowulf: Age of Heroes. I'm a really big fan of how this game works, which I will cover in my next and final video on this system, which will be my review of it. Before that comes out though, I will be talking about the differences between the One Ring 2e and its 5e variant, the Lord of the Rings role-playing. That's all for now, thanks for watching, and have a great day.